slope, real quickly on slope. Listen carefully. Explain the slope of a line, what it is, what other ways stating it, so on and so on. This is what we're going to do today. All right, so that's why this is up here. You should have learned slope last year in algebra class. First, give me a letter that stands for slope. M. Very good.
Mx plus b.
Now be careful. Be careful. M. Don't want that color.
I can't see that.
Slope intercept formula.
Don't choose purple. That's
Joseph. Thank you. Joseph. M stands for slope. Why it stands for slope, I have no idea. The other thing I heard you guys saying, y equals.
what's that?
Might been screwing with me.
Oh, it's all highlighted.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Y equals mx plus b. Is that slope?
No.
No, that's slope intercept form of a linear equation. So make sure you don't do that. All right? Y equals mx plus b. Don't mess with that.
Hey, I put
Better be extremely good today, up the whole time.
Well, if you're gonna text, at least do a good job.
Another thing I wanted to mention, phones. Austin might get lucky, I sort of doubt it. Anymore with phones. You got it in your hoodie pocket, anywhere, I don't care, I'm going to take it. All right, and it gets turned into the office. Laugh about it, Jalen, I'm telling you.
No, I'm laughing about that. I have my hand in my pocket.
Put it in your bag or something when you walk through my door, so that there's no questions. Because I'm done arguing with people about it. If it's in here, then you probably plan on doing something with it, and I'm going to be preemptive and stop it. So if you got it right now, if it's in your hoodie pocket, you might want to stick it somewhere else. Because if I see it, even if I see the outline of it, I'm going to take it. Period. No more.
What did someone do?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna turn this off.
So slope is m. What's the slope formula? Anybody remember that?
I think it's like y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1.
Please make sure when you're doing this, and we're going to write this down later, make sure that when you're using this formula, don't get it confused with the other formulas, and know that the y's are on top, x's are on bottom. It's sort of different than the other stuff. Most every other formula, you take the y's first, or I'm sorry, you take the x's first, then the y's. This one's backwards. Rise over run is another way to state it. My pen would work. Rise over run. So if you're on a graph, you're looking at some line on the graph, you can just start here, up and over, do the little stair steps. Yes. Yes. Sure. Make sure you hurry back, because we're going to take a quiz here in a few minutes, all right? I want you to be able to understand it before we, as much as possible. So rise over run is another way to state it. Remember, with slope, don't think slope is something crazy. All slope means just like the slope of a hill. You know what the slope of a hill is. All right, it's how fast it goes up or how fast it goes down. So don't make slope harder than it actually is. Problem 13. What kind of problem is problem 13?
Crook problem.
Crook problem.
Oh, yeah.
All right, because it doesn't actually have a transversal. It's got sort of that crook in the middle of it there. Again, don't ever go by what my drawing looks like. They tell us that that angle is 36 degrees. They tell us that this is angle 1. They tell us that this is 31 degrees. And they tell us they have these arrows on these two lines. What's that tell us about those two lines? They're parallel to each other. What you're going to do on this crook problem, very first thing,
Draw a line.
draw a line. Where are you going to draw that line? right through the middle, and we're gonna make that line parallel to the other two lines, because this isn't actually a transversal for the two original parallel lines, but now what we can do is we can split off the top two lines, and this part of that is a transversal. This angle is 36 degrees. Can we find this angle here then? What kind of angles are those two angles to each other? Give me the special name.
Parallel interior angles.
Close. Alternate interior angles. What the theorem that we covered last time, what do you know about alternate interior angles? They're equal. So if that's 36, what's this one? 36. Could we find this angle?
Yeah.
What do we know about these two angles? They linear pair, they add up to 180, so it would be like what, 144? What would this one down here be? 144. Do we need to know all those angles?
No.
All right, we're going to need some of them. We know we're trying to find the measure of angle 1. Well, we know that this part right here is 136. Or I'm sorry, not 136, just 36. Does that mean this bottom half's 36?
No.
We split off the bottom two lines, the red line and the black line down here at the bottom. Use this as our transversal. This angle's 31. What's this angle up here then?
31.
Because what kind of angles are those two to each other again? Alternate interior angles. Again, remember with alternate interior angles, they should form a Z. So if that helps you, if you trace them, they form a Z together. That's alternate interior. You might want to pay attention to this instead of that. So we know that this part right here is 31 degrees. Now can we find the measure of angle 1? How would you go about finding it?
Add 36 and 1.
Add those two together. 67 degrees. That's our answer. Next question.
33.
33. When we get to something that's going to be on this quiz that you're going to take here in just a couple minutes, I'll tell you. It's nothing quite as difficult as 33. I don't think 33 is really difficult, but there's nothing even this hard on it. So if you're paying attention, you'll probably do fine on it. One other thing I want to say, they put parentheses around stuff like 3x minus 15. The only reason they do that is because if they didn't put the parentheses around it and then they put the degree right there, what would that look like?
Minus 15 degrees.
It looks like just the 15's got the degree with it, not everything else. I'm lazy, so I don't put the parentheses around everything, so just know that that still stands for that whole angle there. They tell us that this is 2x and this is y squared. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 different lines in here. You never ever, when you're dealing with parallel lines, you never want 4 lines in one picture. All right, everybody getting this, because it's going to be a big thing on your quiz. 3 lines, the 2 parallel lines and 1 transversal at a time. If you got more than 1 transversal in there at a time, all it's going to do is confuse you. So you have to split stuff off. So if I come out here and I split off the 2 parallel lines, these 2 right here. Now, what could I use as a transversal? The top. So we're going to use this top right here, Zach says, as our transversal. What's this angle? Do we know any other angles in this picture?
No.
So is there any equation we can set up from that?
No.
So instead of using the top as the transversal, maybe I better do what? Maybe use the bottom. So I come over here, I split off the 2 parallel lines again. This time I'm going to use the bottom down here as the transversal. Do I know this angle?
68.
Do I know this angle inside here? This angle? Can I set up an equation from that? What kind of angles are those two to each other? If you take the two lines, you shove them together, shove the two lines together, they're corresponding angles because they overlap each other. What did we say last time about corresponding angles?
Or congruent.
They have to be congruent to each other. So what equation can I set up?
2x equals 68.
Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
Nick, does that make any sense?
34.
This angle has to be the same as that angle, so I set it equal 2x equals 68. How do I solve for x then? So what is x?
34.
That's half of our answer. They said they wanted you to find x and y. Well, if I come back over here now, can I find that angle?
Yeah.
Plug in 34 for x. Somebody help me out. What's 3 times 34?
102.
102. Everybody agree with that? Sounds about right. Might want to grab out a calculator, make sure Joseph's right before we go on. What's 102 minus 15 then?
90s.
Grab a pencil and write it down.
It'd be 87.
87. Everybody agree with Joseph?
Yeah.
So that angle right there is 87 degrees. Now we got to find y, which is way out here. Well, y wasn't in either one of our pictures when we tried the transversal, but most of you probably know, even though we haven't covered it yet this year, what do you know about the 3 angles of a triangle? They have to add up to be 180. Well, can't we add these two together and figure out what that pointed angle is down there at the
Yeah.
end? So somebody help me out. What's 87 plus 68? Where you guys are so lazy. You got a piece of paper laying right there. You got a pencil. I want to see a pencil in everybody's hand.
155.
No reason I should have to do all the math for you. What do you do with that 155? So 180 minus 155. What's that give us?
25.
So that means this angle is 25 degrees. Does that tell us what y is though?
No. You have to square 25 in order to.
Now be careful. What do you got to do? If you know that this angle is 25 degrees and it's y squared, well then we know y squared should equal what? 25. And you don't square it, what do? Take the square root of both sides. So what's y? Y equals 5. Now, actually y should be positive or negative 5, because when you square something, what's a negative 5 times the negative 5? Positive 25. So it could be either answer. Sometimes, exactly, that's what it is. It's not like one, it is one.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, anytime it's got a square, quadratic equation. So anytime you're doing that, and on some of the problems that we do, you'll have where the negative won't work. But in this case, is it all right for y to be a negative 5?
Yes.
So x is 34, y is negative 5. On the worksheet, I am going to do problems 1 through 6 and 13 through 18 for you. So follow along, write in the answers. And the whole purpose of me doing these problems for you is because one of the problems on the quiz looks just like the first problem here. The other problem on the quiz looks just like the third problem down there for 13 through 18. So Jalen might want to put that away and follow along, otherwise he's going to be complaining when he gets his quiz that he doesn't know how to do it because he wasn't here, and I'm trying to show him right now. That's all right. This is gonna be more helpful. What's this third line called that I'm drawing right now? Transversal, very good. We got angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4, angle 5, 6, 7, and 8. And for this first problem, they tell us angle 2 is 70 degrees. So I'm just going to write that in there. So that's the one that they gave to us. They have to give you one of them. Once they give you one and you know the two parallel lines, you should be able to find the other 7 angles. All right? And that's what we're going to do right now. Tell me an angle we know in this picture.
3 is 70.
Angle 3 is 70. How'd you know that?
Vertical.
So what I would be doing right now, on your paper right there, write it in the picture. Angle 3 is 70 because these two angles are vertical. What can you tell me about angle 6?
Alternate interior.
They're alternate interior angles. Does everybody see that? 3 and 6. Alternate interior, if we trace them, they form a Z. They have to be congruent, so what's the measure of angle 6?
70.
What kind of angles are 3 and 5 to each other? It's one of the other special pairs that we covered last time. Probably the hardest one to remember.
Interior.
They're supplementary to each other. What's their special name? We already had alternate interior, so that's not it.
Starts with a C, doesn't it?
Yep.
It's not corresponding. It's all consecutive.
Consecutive interior angles. That's probably the hardest one to remember because it's different than all the others. Consecutive interior angles, remember, they got nothing in between them. They're both on the inside. They got nothing but air in between. Consecutive interior angles. And consecutive interior angles have to be what to each other?
Add up to 180.
They add up to 180. They have to be supplementary. So what's angle 5 going to be? 110. What kind of angles are 5 and 4 to each other?
Alternate interior.
Alternate interior again. So what do you know about them? They're congruent. Remember, this is the only one that's supplementary. All the rest of them, alternate interior, alternate exterior, and corresponding angles are all congruent to each other. So what's angle 4 here? 110. What kind of angles are 4 and 8 to each other?
Corresponding.
Corresponding. If you take the two lines, shove them together, smash them together, don't fold it, just smash them. Angle 4 lays over top of angle 8. Well, what do you know about angle 4 and angle 8? They're congruent. So that has to be 110. Angle 1, how could we find angle 1?
Like 1 and 4 vertical.
These are vertical angles. What do you know about vertical angles? So that's 110. How could you find angle 7? It's the only other one we got left to find.
7 and 6 are vertical. 70.
So should you be able to find, just given one number, should you be able to find every other angle on that picture?
Yes.
4 lines in this picture. Do we want 4 lines in it? No, you want 3. Which 2 lines are parallel? Y and Z. So I know I'm going to use those. So I'm going to split off right up here. I'm going to split off Y and Z. Doesn't have to be great drawing, but this is what you should do also. Split those 2 off. Now we got to pick a transversal. Doesn't matter which one, pick one. W. Zach said we're going to do W, so we'll pick W. That's right there. We got angle 1, angle 2, angle 5, angle 6. We know that angle 3 here is 75, 4, 8, and 7. Tell me an angle we know in that picture then.
Angle 8.
Angle 8 is what?
Vertical angle.
Vertical, so 75. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to write it in right there. You can write it in here too, 75. What's the next one? Angle 2, what do we know about angle 2?
They're all consecutive.
Consecutive interior angles, good. So what do they have to add up to be? 180, so what's angle 2? 105. Angle 2 is 105, we can write that in there. Give me another one we know.
5
Angle 5, what is it?
vertical.
Vertical to that, so what, how much is it? 105, we can write that in there. Now what?
What is it? 3 and 6 are alternate interior.
3 and 6 are alternate interior, so what's angle 6 have to be?
75.
75. So we can write that in, 75 degrees, alternate interior angles. Remember, if you trace them, they form a Z. If that helps you. Give me another one.
Angle 27 alternate interior.
Angle 2 and 7 are alternate interiors, so what's angle 7?
105.
105. 105. 1 is 75, good. 4 is 105. Now this is where you're going to mess up, so don't write this part down. Joseph's not paying any attention to me. He's going to think, I can do this. I don't have to do all that extra work. He's going to come down here. He's going to say, look, angle 8 and angle 11 are alternate interior angles. So,
They are not.
so that has to be 75 degrees. Is that right?
No, 65 degrees.
All right. So make sure you don't do that, because are these two lines parallel to each other?
No.
And that's why we got to come over here and we're going to split off the two parallel lines again. But this time, instead of using W as our transversal, what are we going to use?
X.
And that's what we're going to look at. And we know this angle here is 115. Well, tell me another angle that we know then.
Vertical.
Angle 13 is how much?
150.
115, because they're vertical angles. So we can write that in there. I could write. Give me another angle that we know.
15 because it's alternate interior.
This one and this one alternate interior, so that has to be 115. 115. 12's 115. Again, these were alternate interior, so that's why they had to be the same. This is 115 because they're vertical, or you could have used, what kind of angles are 12 and 10 to each other?
Corresponding.
Corresponding. You shove the lines together, they lay over top of each other. Give me another one.
It's 10 and 11.
What's the question, Jalen?
65.
What is 13 and like 10 and 15 are called what?
10 and 15 are alternate interior angles. See how they're both inside the two parallel lines, and they're on alternate sides? They're like on opposite corners. So what's 14 and 11 to each other?
150.
No, they're alternate interior angles also, right? So that means they have to be the same. What's another one?
10 and 11 consecutive.
10 and 11, those are consecutive interiors, so they have to add up to equal 180, so that's 65, right?
Yeah.
Give me another one.
14 and 15 are consecutive interior.
14 and 15 are consecutive interior also.
14 and 11 are alternate interior.
These are alternate interior, so what's 14 have to be? 65. Give me another one.
9 and 14.
9 is vertical.
Those are vertical, so that's 65.
And 11 and 16 are vertical.
65. Now notice, I'm not so much concerned when you draw this out here that you write everything out here that that you had to write in here, and then you have to copy it back over there. But is it very helpful to split it off and draw it and make sure you're doing it right before you start messing with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guarantee you there'll be at least 3 or 4 of you in this classroom. If this was the problem on the quiz, you would have or something like 75 down here because you went this way. And it doesn't work that way. That's why you split off the two parallel lines and a transversal to make sure you're doing it correct. All right?
Wouldn't it be correct if you split these two lines going this way?
These two?
Yeah.
No, because they're not parallel to each other. So you could split off these two lines and use like Z here as a transversal. But if these two lines aren't parallel, then these alternate interior angles right here, they're nothing to each other. They're just they are alternate interior angles, but they're not congruent to each other. So that doesn't help. So the two lines that you split off have to be parallel to each other. So that's why we use these two. And then we pick a transversal.
I'm ready for your test.
All right, need to use that sheet of paper that you have out. On this quiz, draw the pictures that I have up here. Fill them in is the easiest way. So I'm going to put them up here and then you can just fill in the numbers. I'm going to write this in here. Yeah, put everything away. That's 110. That angle right there, I know they're hard to read, so I'm going to rewrite them. That's 96. That angle right there, 68 degrees.
Are there any more questions?
This is all of them. Fill them in. Shouldn't take you but about 7-8 minutes to do this. Lay your thing up there on the chair, and good luck. All right, on this. Going through these very, very quickly. Tell me, I'm going to point at an angle, you tell me what it is. How about this angle right here?
110.
110. How'd you know that?
Vertical.
The vertical angles. How about this angle? 70.
Linear pair.
Those are linear pair, good. They're supplementary. How about this one? 70. How about this one? 70. You could use consecutive interior. They have to add up to 180. Alternate interior. They have to be congruent to each other. How about this one? 110.
Whoa.
How about this one? 110. This one?
Where did you get this 70 from in the first place?
What's this 70? Those two are a linear pair. They have to add up to 180. We've been doing that all year long.
What's the picture for it? For the lines.
I mean, they're not accurate to the lines.
Feels like I figured that like 70 degrees is what actually was like 70 degrees. When you're drawing your pictures.
That looks about like a 70 degrees.
Yeah, when you do it on your paper, it doesn't.
Yeah, sometimes. Down here, if I cover this bottom up, we still have our two parallel lines and our transversal. So just sort of ignore that bottom's even there. What do we know about this angle right here? 96. The vertical angles, how about this angle?
Would be 100
Four.
What do you got to do to find it?
180.
180 minus 96. What'd you get?
4. 2. 4.
So that angle's 84. How about this angle up here?
84 vertical angle.
84, that's vertical. Sorry, it's ugly. How about this angle down here?
84.
84. You could use consecutive interior there. You could use alternate interior. How about this angle?
96.
96. How about this angle? 96.
Vertical. 84.
84.
Vertical.
So we know all those. Now, if I cover that part up, use these two parallel lines and this transversal. What's this angle? Okay, quit writing. Oh, they won't read it because my arm's in the way. How about this angle? What you got to do to find it? 112. How about this one? 112. This one? 112. How about this one? This one? This one? Alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding angles, and consecutive interior. The first three that I named all have to be congruent to each other. The fourth one, linear pair or add up to 180. Not linear pair, sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
That's very easy to do.
All right, today is the 6th. Go ahead and write this down. What we're going to cover today, finding slopes of lines and using those slopes to identify whether lines are parallel or perpendicular. If you hurry up and write down real short notes today, I want to do a bunch of your homework for you, but I think last time I said this, we didn't get much accomplished, did we? And we're probably, since we're running late already, you got to write quickly and listen and help. So again, rise over, M stands for slope, rise over run, watch your signs. Only use rise over run when you're doing it on a graph. That's the best way. If you're given 2 points, use the formula. Also with this, don't get this confused with what other formulas have we covered this year? Midpoint formula, distance formula. Don't get it confused with those two. Looks sort of real similar to it. Don't get it confused with them. All right? The other thing with midpoint formula, if I draw the midpoint formula up here, you added the x's, divide by 2, you add the y's, divide by 2. That's midpoint formula. When we did midpoint formula and distance formula, did it matter which x was x2 and which one was x1? This one, it doesn't matter which one's x2 and which one's x1, but if you're given 2 points, let's say I'm given this point's question mark, exclamation mark. This one is, what are some, comma,
Period.
and a period. If I'm given those 2 points, it doesn't matter what the numbers are. If Damien takes it and he says question mark, oops, no, he wouldn't say that because those aren't your y's. He says exclamation mark minus period, then what's he have to do on the bottom?
Slide it up and down.
Comma minus,
Not comma minus,
Question
Question mark minus.
it's got to go the same. So in other words, these two have to come from the same point. These two have to come from the same point. You can't switch them around like you could with distance formula or midpoint formula, because if you switch them around, then that messes up your sign. And another thing I want to say about your signs, if I have a line, if I have a line and it goes like this, what kind of slope should that line have? Should have a positive slope because it's going up. What kind of slope should this line have? A negative slope because it's going down from the left to the right. So if you do this and you look at your line and it's going up and you come up with a negative when you do the formula, you know you messed up somewhere. All right, you messed up your signs. You turned something around in there. How about this line? What kind of slope should it have?
Neutral.
Not neutral.
Zero.
0. This one has a slope of 0. What kind of line is that? It's a horizontal line. How about a vertical line?
Undefined.
Undefined or no slope. Undefined or no slope. Right? Those two, the horizontal and the vertical, you just have to have them memorized. What looks to be true about these two lines? They're parallel. They look like they're parallel, and I'm going to do this real quickly. If you're on a graph and you pick 2 points, let's say I pick that point right there and some other point that it goes through. Where's that? Maybe right there. I can't really see. We should be able to count our rise and our run. How many spaces did I go up?
4, 2, 4, 6.
6. So that's our rise. So slope of that line
4.
is 6
4.
over 4. Will that reduce any?
Yes.
To what?
2.
3 over 2. So slope of the blue line is 3 over 2. Slope of the red line. Let's see here. If they're parallel, it should be 3 over 2, right? So let's see if it is. Let's pick a couple points. Looks like it goes through that point and that. No, not that one. That one, hard for me to see up here. How much did I go up? 3. How much did I go over? 2.
Yes.
So what's the slope of that red line?
2.
3 over 2. What's that tell us about those two lines? They are
Parallel.
parallel to each other. They're parallel to each other, all right? What looks to be true about the orange line?
They're transversal.
It's a transversal for those two, but to the blue line, it looks like it's what? It looks like it might be perpendicular. So maybe that angle right there is a right angle. And we could figure that out, but you guys couldn't tell me what it was. We know the slope of this one is 3 over 2. Well, then you should know what the slope of that one has to be if they are perpendicular. And that's negative 3 over 2. That's close.
2 over 3.
What is it?
Negative 2 over 3.
Negative 2 over 3. What is it? It's the reciprocal and the opposite. It's the opposite reciprocal, and that's what this next slide is going to show us. And actually, if we found the orange one there, it would come out to not be that. On perpendicular lines, I'm going to write a couple words right here. Just stick them in there. I forgot to put them in. Stick them in right there. Write each of these down. I'm going to go over this. Make sure you know about horizontal lines. Make sure you know about vertical lines. If lines are parallel, what do you know about their slopes? Same. So if you have two lines and they have the same slopes, then you also know that they are parallel. Perpendicular lines. Again, lines that come together, form right angles. Two lines are perpendicular, then their slopes are opposite reciprocals. You might want to write this example down with that just to make sure you know what opposite reciprocals are. If I give you one line has a slope of 4/5, what's a line perpendicular to that going to have a slope of? All right, it's 5 over 4. That's the reciprocal part. You flip the fraction over, and then the opposite would be make it a negative instead of a positive. What if I gave you a line and it had a slope of 2? This one's a little tougher. What's a line perpendicular to that? Negative 1/2. You just put a 1 underneath that to make it a fraction. Opposite reciprocal would be negative 1/2. Flip it over and take the opposite. Rate of change. Probably want to write this down in there. Rate of change is change in quantity. So the amount, how much the amount changes over change in time. You hear rate of change a lot dealing with stuff like the cost of something. How much something's went up over the last 10 years or 20 years or whatever. So it's change in quantity. You subtract them on top, subtract the times on bottom. Horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Vertical lines have no slope. Don't. Right. You could write it no slope. You could write undefined. Or you could write 0 with a slash to it. But don't get these two confused and think that this one has a slope of 0 also. That's not the case. Having a slope of 0, that means the line goes up 0, and having an undefined slope, two completely different things.
Because if it's starting like this, and then it goes straight up like that, it's not really,
It wouldn't be a line then.
yeah.
It'd start like this. If it's a line, it's got to stay like that. What's your question, Joseph?
Can there actually be slope in the third dimension? With z factor?
Is
In the coordinate?
what's the slope of this line right here on the floor? 0. Is that three-dimensional?
So the slope can only happen in the second dimension?
No, this is three-dimensional. The floor is three-dimensional, isn't it? So the slope of that line
We're
that's on the
talking
floor.
about slope in the third dimension.
We won't here, but you could somewhere else. All right, we're not gonna have time to do this, but listen carefully. What we're gonna do, this is gonna be part of your homework. So I'm gonna go on to the next one. Instead of 15 right here, replace that with a 4 and write that down. That's your assignment. 4 through that,